We don't start each podcast off with a sponsorship, but we do start each podcast off with an encourager. An encourager is somebody that keeps you motivated and inspired in your life and always helps you grow. The encourager for this episode is Lynn Babineaux. I met Lynn about a year ago in my church at a small group, and she's always been one of those relationships that I want to keep with me because she gives me the honest truth. She is a friend that doesn't tell me what I want to hear, but what I need to hear to keep growing. She keeps me growing in my relationships, in my faith with God, in life. She's a mom of 3. She's in school. She has a really good career, but she's always looking for better. And she knows what it takes to get to the top. She knows that just like a rocket, once you take off, you gotta let some things go. And she really goes in detail about that and relationships in this episode about keeping your circle right and tight. So I hope you get all of the great nuggets, I know you will, in this episode that she gave to us. Enjoy. Hey, Facebook and Instagram family. It's Caitlin with the I Killed My Own Killer book series and podcast. And I know you're probably wondering, why is this girl going live again tonight? We're knocking out so many podcast episodes this week with some amazing special guests. So today we're going to be talking about all things relationships. Yes. Like my girl Brandi Landry says, how to keep your circle right by keeping it tight. So I have the honor of having Lynn Babineaux with me tonight, who is an amazing woman. She's a really good friend of mine. She's somebody I look up to because she knows how to keep herself associated with the right types of people that's going to encourage her, keep her growing, and inspire her in her daily walk. So Lynn, let's go ahead and give yourself an introduction.
Hi everybody, my name is Lynn Babineaux, as Caitlin stated. I do reside here in Lafayette. I am a mom of 3. I have my oldest daughter who is 14, and then I have my 2 littles is what I call them. My son, who's my middle child, he just turned 8, and then my baby girl who just turned 7.
Aww, that's awesome. So not only is she a mom, she's very driven and busy in her career. She's a student right now up her education to help further her career. So she's got it going on. And I want you to tell us a little bit about your circle of influence right now, your friends, family, or people you associate with on a daily.
So right now, I have grown to a place where, like Ms. Brandi said, keep my circle tight and keep it right. I think that is essential as a woman who walks with Christ, who is bringing up children, and I want to be able to train them the way that God requires. So my circle consists of people who I can pour into and who also reciprocates that and can pour into me.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That is so good. What she just said right there about having a circle of friends that can pour into her, but also she can pour into them, because I know for myself, I'm guilty of having friends where I'm opening up my mouth to help them in so many ways and they're not even ready to receive what I have to say. Yes. And then on the flip side, I have friends where I'm like, all right, girl, I'm in this situation. I need your advice. And they're like, you know what, just have a glass of wine, have a margarita. I'm like, that's not going to fix my problem. I need logical help. Like, how is this going to help me grow?
Absolutely.
So how do you know, or like, what's a good red flag for people that's taking away from you versus people that's actually giving value to you?
So to determine if someone is adding value, it depends on their mindset. It depends on what they talk about. It depends on basically the fruit that you see from them. Because you don't want to be amongst people who continue to keep you in the wasteland, right? You have to be able to grow. You have to be able to bear fruit. So if you're around a person that's consistently negative, a person that just can only see the dark side of things, they can't, you can't pull them into the light, or they're just unwilling. They're unwilling to change, and they want to dwell in behaviors that's not conducive to their growth. Yeah. Essentially, that spirit is going to feed into you, and it's going to pour into you, sometimes unbeknownst to you. You'll just wake up and you'll just have a bad attitude, and you don't even know what you're upset for.
You're preaching to me.
So you realize that energy that you allow yourself to be fed is going to essentially start pouring out of you. So,
ooh, girl.
Yeah.
I know we have some followers that are watching this live right now, and we're going to have some listeners on the podcast later, but I don't care about that. Like, this is for me, because you were preaching to me, the person that needs to hear this, because I am so guilty of staying around those people, even though I see the bad side effects, but I always want to change people, and I keep trying to help them become better. So how would you get out of that mindset of wanting to change people or thinking you're doing good by being their friend in hopes for them to change?
So, I mean, it's always a good idea. You always want to be who you are, and you always want to be a light for people. However, having the mindset of feeling like you're able to change people, that's the wrong mindset to have. I used to be that person, thinking people should be this way, or they should know better, or they should be doing this. And in all actuality, you know, God says, take the thorn out your own eye before you can take the thorn out your brother's eye. So we have to do a lot of self-reflection and self-digging and self-growing. And then that itself will influence other people to change, want to be around you, to want to live a better life. But actually trying to force change on somebody, that's not our assignment. Because basically what we're doing is we're trying to take the place of God.
Oof.
And we can't do that.
This is why Lynn is my friend. She gives me the real, she's open and she's honest. She doesn't tell me what I want to hear. She tells me what I need to hear to help me grow. So I encourage you to find more friends just like that. And if you have any questions for us, drop them in the comments. But what was the best advice that you would give somebody that's looking to broaden their circle of friends, but they just don't know how? Like, they want more friends like you, or they want more friends that's going to pour into them, but they don't know where to go.
Obviously a great place to start is, hopefully, you know, you're planted in a church. If you're not planted in a church, I recommend that you seek that out. Talk to people who are planted in churches. See, you know, what the dynamic is like, and try to infiltrate that. You know, it's the sooner you can get planted inside of a place that's going to be conducive to your growth, the sooner that God can align you with those right relationships. But it has to start somewhere. It has to start with you actually wanting it and wanting to have that change for your life. So that's where it all unfolded for me. You know, I actually got planted in a church. I started building right relationships. I started seeing, you know, people who enjoyed and wanted to see the new me, the renewed me, the changed me, as opposed to keeping me bound by the person that I used to be, which is the person that I no longer wanted to be.
Yeah, that's good. That's some good tips right there. And I know it sounds crazy, like joining a church to make new friends. I know for myself, I'm very introverted. My husband is the complete opposite. He'll talk to a wall, where if I go to church, I'm going into church, get the word, and I'm heading out. But believe it or not, like, I met Lynn through church. So you really just have to take those initial steps, get in the church, and God will lead you into the next path, and he'll align you with whatever people that you need to align with. But my next question for you, Lynn, is how do you remove those negative people or those toxic people out of your life without hurting them, or, you know, intentionally hurting their feelings? And there's no shade right here either for those of y'all listening, and you're like, Caitlin did that to me. No, we're using this because a lot of people have put into the questions in my Facebook group these questions and comments about what do you do with X, Y, and Z relationships. So I'm really inviting Lynn to speak on this because I am not the expert. Like I said, I want to help everybody, where she's a very good example. So I want to know, and a lot of viewers want to know, like, how do you cut those people off without doing it in a rude way?
So it's hard. I'll be the first to say it's very difficult, especially because we always want to look at old time, you know, or history. You know, history wants to keep us tied to people that, you know, God is saying, you know what, their season is up in your life. You know, I'm moving you from one glory to the next, and, you know, you can't take everybody with you. And so I had to learn, because sometimes I used to be a person, although my intention was well, the way things would come out would be kind of harsh. And so it just took me taking a step back, learning how to walk and talk in love, and being able to present things in a way that people can actually receive them, even though the thing that you're telling them may not be what they want to hear. And that includes saying, you know what, look, I'm in a different place in my life. You know, God really wants to use me and move me. There are things that we used to indulge in that I'm not able to do anymore. So either they're going to respect your position and, maybe you can maintain a friendship until they're ready to catch up, or they won't accept it, they won't understand it, and that may be a tie that you have to sever. However, you have to give people what's called boundaries, and that is important to be established if you want to actually continue on your walk and not stumble, because people can cause you to stumble, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally. And so you have to move away from those things, and hopefully you'll get people that will respect those boundaries, but sometimes you get people who will not respect those boundaries. Family members, friends, people that you may have blood relationship with. And I've had to tell family members, look, I can't, this is not who I am anymore. I can't indulge that. If you cannot respect that, I can no longer be in a relationship with you.
Yeah. That's so good. And I used to get hung up on, well, what if they don't understand? And now I'm at a place where it's not for everybody to understand personal changes that I'm making in my life or my walk with Christ. It's for me to do personally, because I want to grow.
Absolutely.
And it's totally king, because whenever I don't set up those boundaries that you're talking about, or whenever I don't remove myself from whatever situation it is, I continue to hit a brick wall and I can't elevate to new levels. So in order for me to rise to the top and grow, I have to set those boundaries, and I have to cut those people off in a nice way. Yeah. And I really go back to that crazy phrase, like, what would Jesus do? Because a few days ago I did like a post, and it was on a poll, and it was either like, yes, I want to grow healthy, or no, I wanted to stay the same. And I knew the person voted no just to be a butthole. So I was like, okay, you're blocked, you're deleted. And I was about to make a post about that person, and I was like, you know what? What would Jesus do? Yeah. Jesus would move in silence and just continue to grow on his own, because he's doing it because it's right for him, and not to show anybody something else.
Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be put on display. It doesn't have to be put on display when you terminate relationships, whenever you choose to go in a different direction other than, the direction that other people feel you should go in. That is quite all right. Family members I've had to cut ties with, because they cannot respect the boundaries that I have set for my growth. So God uses the term pruning. Pruning is important, especially if you're growing and you're trying to change and you're trying to develop, because sometimes it's hard to find your way, especially when you're new in Christ. It's really hard to find your way, and you're really trying to find something that you can hold on to, because you have darkness that you're trying to come out of, whatever it might be. So I say that it's okay to prune, and that's a nice way of putting it. And so you can still walk in love with those people. That's not saying that you can't ever talk to them. It's just that you can't let them have access to you in the ways that they used to.
I'm totally picking up what you were putting down, and I'm so happy Melissa just commented that she's loving all of this, and she's relating to a lot of it, because God was telling her to go to a new level. She had to cut certain people off. So everything you're saying, she's been through, and it's a journey. Like, I don't think it ever stops. And you use the term pruning, which I love, because, like, does pruning sound cute? No, to me, pruning does not sound cute, but it's a painful process for me. But I realize once I get through that initial pain, and once I do the hardest part, it's the fruit that comes right after that, like you had mentioned. It's the beauty of seeing me grow personally and my family thrive, because I set those boundaries and I let those people go. And one of my really good aunts, she told me about 6 years ago that certain people are in your lives during a season for a reason. So it's not that they're meant to be with you forever. Where I'm the type of person, if we meet today, we're going to be best friends for life. And I had to let that mindset go. But I'm not even looking at these questions, because me and Lynn are just kicking it off and chit-chat, and I really hope that we're giving some value to you. So if we are, drop some hearts on Instagram, like it up on Facebook, and give us your feedback in the comments, because we're totally loving it. If you're listening to this on the podcast, let us know in the Facebook group, or wherever you're listening to us, how you're liking this episode. I definitely wanted to continue this conversation with asking you, did God ever give you any red flags or signs of a particular person that you had to leave? And was it hard to listen to him, or was it easy?
Yes. Definitely I was given some red signs about a relationship that I was in, particularly a marriage that I was in. There were red flags, but sometimes, when you're a good person, or people present themselves in a way and you don't really inspect, you don't really do a full inspection of who they actually are and how they actually live their life. Sometimes we want to see the good in people. So we look past those red flags. And we get hung up on what we think we could be, or how, we can form a relationship, or how we can form, the desire of what we want to accomplish with that person.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it. Mm-hmm. And I was in that situation for 7 years. And God was giving me signs like, I know God didn't bring me this far and have you go through all this and grow me this much just to put me in this situation.
No.
And so at some point, and I did all the praying, I did all the counsel, I did those steps because I didn't want to just throw my hands up because I made a commitment to God. And I also didn't want to feel like a failure. Mm-hmm. People who have been in marriages before, it's hard to take that step to let go.
Yes.
Because we feel like we failed. And I felt like that for quite some time. However, God has specific rules as to how a marriage is supposed to be led, how it's supposed to be operated, how the person, the man or the woman that you're with, is supposed to work alongside of you, and a man is supposed to lead their wife. And if a man is leading you into a direction that's not conducive to God's word, then am I really supposed to follow this person? Mm-hmm. And so after much prayer, I gave God an ultimatum. I said, God, you either fix it or you tear it apart.
Wow.
And 3 days after that, here came the flood of August of 2016 and lost absolutely everything.
Oof.
And that was my sign from God that I needed to leave all of that where it was and start anew.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that story with us and how those red flags were presented to you and those warning signs. And it's crazy because when you go to God for an answer, He will give you that answer. So be ready for that answer.
Oh, yeah. And it was in an uncomfortable position to be in, but honestly, the dissolution of that relationship, I found freedom. I found myself again. God created in me a new and clean heart, a forgiving heart, because I was angry. I was bitter. I hated the situation that I was in. I hated the person that I had become. Mm-hmm. And so I had got to a point in my relationship with God where I was just stalled.
Wow.
I was not growing. I was not, being fruitful. I was just becoming the old me, mm-hmm. basically. And so God doesn't put you in a position to go backwards. God mm-hmm. wants to pull you forward. He wants to pull you out of any bondage that you may be in. So I just want to encourage, anybody that's in a situation, in a relationship that they're afraid to get out of. Listen, God can reconcile anything. That's why His blood was shed. He can reconcile anything, even the issues that flow within your heart. So don't be afraid to come out. Because you have to regain your power and you have to find freedom.
Man, I'm getting chills and goosebumps right now just because you were speaking it, and it's so encouraging to hear that from you. And I'm going to share a little bit of my story just because all you married and divorced ladies that are listening, you could totally relate to Lynn. And for people that may be in the dating phase or even engaged, I want to break it down on a lower level, because whenever I used to hear people talk like that, I'm like, yeah, God can make it new. I need to see signs, just like she got the flood. And then I had to realize God speaks to us all in different ways.
Absolutely.
So what matters is, do we have a prayer life to where we can clearly listen and hear from Him? Because there's people that would get visions and have dreams, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. But then I started to realize I'm not that person. So I had to really get in tune with the Spirit and realize that God speaks to me personally through feelings. So prior to meeting my husband, I was in a relationship for 5 years. So like you were saying, you're attached to that time. You don't want to let that relationship go. That was totally me. I was like, I'm going to change this person because it's been 5 years. I got a promise ring. We'll get engaged later and get married. Like, this is the one. Yeah. And then I started to get those red flags, like me pulling his arm to come to church on Sundays. But it's easy to go to the club and have some beer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or me, just saying, instead of going out, let's read, let's do something to grow. And then I realized I could not grow because I was in that relationship. So God was telling me, let it go. And I'm like, how do you want me to let go 5 years of my life? We can do this. We can make this right. Me and you, God, pray for that person hours. And God continued to show me that is not the one. It took Him verbally abusing me for me to be like, okay, that's taken a lot of the emotions that I had attached to you out. And from that moment, I listened to God and God only.
Absolutely.
And I put a screensaver on my phone, like Finding Nemo, just keep swimming, because I just had to keep going forward and keep listening to God. And then I met DePaul, and I told God specifically, I want a husband like DePaul. Yeah. I want a man that's going to open the doors, that wants to grow, wants to be better. Absolutely. Lo and behold, God had DePaul for me. So whatever it is for you that you're struggling with, that you don't want to let go of, like God has something 10 times better for you if you just let go.
Yeah. And I mean, it's all about, that goes back to, finding your circle. Because if you have a person, whether you're in a dating relationship or a friendship, if they're more willing to help you burn, like they're cheering you on saying, hey, let's go to the club, but I can't go to church with you on Sunday, or I can't go help you find freedom. I can't really go help you worship God and throw my hands up, but we can go sit at the bar and throw back drinks all day. So if that's a person that's willing to help you burn, but not help you get blessed and find freedom in God, then that's a person that you may have to consider pruning from your life. You know what I'm saying? So,
and the crazy part is, you will, and tell me if I'm right or wrong, because you can be honest, I know you are.
Yeah.
You will probably have more people in your life that's willing to do those bad habits with you and encourage you to do things that's not productive and to do crazy things, versus people in your life that's like, look, you need to do this, be real with you, and do productive activities that are going to help you get somewhere. Or at least for me, I find there's more people around me that want to do things that don't align with my goals, versus people that's like, let's do this, it'll help you get towards your goal.
Absolutely. No, that is so true. So you want somebody that's really going to pour into you. It's okay, to have fun and, let your hair down and just keep it, tight and have fun every once in a while. But however, I need a person that's going to pour me into more ways than one. You know what I'm saying? So, and then you'll find that, those things, those old things, you won't even feel for them. Like, you won't even want to go out. You won't even want to go have drinks at the bar. Like, your whole perspective will change once your circle changes.
Yes. And for me, it didn't happen immediately, but it did. Like, the Holy Spirit removed those desires that I had to do certain things with them. And now I look back and they may still do it, but I'm like, you know what? I'm on a different path and I'm okay with it. Where at the beginning of that pruning process, I'm like, but that looks fun. Yeah. Like, I kind of miss it. And we always talk about growing, relationally, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, even in my physical health. Some friends that I would have, it's like, it's a pull to get them to come work out with me, or if they're like, hey, let's hang out, and I say, cool, 30-minute workout, they're like, I'll catch you another time. So I realized, like, just because I don't have those friends in my life now doesn't mean that God won't deliver them later. And it's okay to do things by myself. I don't need to always have somebody with me doing it.
Absolutely. Because, sometimes God wants you with your quiet time, with your thoughts and, just reflecting on things, or, things that he may want you to reflect on, so being by yourself is okay too.
Yes.
It's not the end of the world, and God can fix and restore anything. So if there are some losses or some L's that you have to take relationally, please believe that God is going to restore all that, and he's going to give you better relationships that's going to be conducive to everything that he wants you to be.
For sure. And then you're going to get to those new levels and those new heights that you want to go to. I know Melissa, she's a really good viewer right now that's commenting a lot, and she's trying to leave her job. I think she might have left her job already and started her own business, where that's a huge transition in itself.
Absolutely.
I'm sure you've been pruned the heck out of this year to get to that new level, and God has probably stripped a few relationships away from you, but you're going to see why. He has so much great things in store for those amazing pralines that you make. But when you talk about like a job versus entrepreneurship, a lot of people don't speak the business language. So for me, I had to let go of a lot of friends that I had that were maybe like very gung-ho about their job, and that's all they wanted to talk about, because I was trying to get to another quadrant. I was trying to go from an employee to a business owner, which is a huge shift. So I'm sure you really experienced a huge pruning process, Melissa. And it takes a lot of faith to get through that, which is why I wanted you to talk about just how do you strengthen your faith, especially when you're in those times alone. Like, I know God speaks to us, but he's not physically here. So it's a little bit different building a relationship with God versus building a physical relationship with somebody that I can actually be with. So how do you keep your faith so strong?
It kind of got easier as I continue to mature in God, because it's difficult. I'm going to sit here and be 100% truthful. When you're starting out and you're walking with God and that road gets lonely, it does sometimes make you want to question, did I make the right decision? But I had to understand that God has to sometimes break you down so he can build you back up. Yeah. And he wants to build you up the right way. So the way that I was able to keep my faith was just understanding that I want my legacy for my children to be one that anybody would be proud of.
Wow.
I wanted people to look at me, and I wanted to be a reflection of God. I wanted to walk upright. You know, it was exhausting, you know, living a life of sin. It was exhausting just indulging in things that just didn't help build me. Mm-hmm. And those things get tiring. So I would rather be tired from chasing after God than being tired from chasing after things that left me empty.
That's so good.
And so keeping the faith was easy because I knew that those chasing after God, I was getting filled. Yeah. I was getting blessed. I was seeing things restored. I was seeing things renewed. So God was showing me who he was. Mm-hmm. And so it got easier to keep the faith. It was lonely in the beginning, but it got a lot easier to just hang on to God because he kept showing me who he was.
Yes, you said it so perfectly. Whenever he shows you who he is, he just shows out. And that's really, for me personally, that's what's kept me going. Because it is lonely, like you said, at the very beginning when you're on that walk and you know what you got to do. But it's whenever God shows up and he shows out, you're like, man, this is why I'm doing it. So it helps you to continue to do it. Yeah. Just like working out or eating healthy. You're discouraged because it's not fun, it's hard work, and then you get skinnier, you get abs, you get toner, you get stronger, something happens physically, you're like, this is why I'm doing it. Yep. So it helps you to continue on that journey. So wherever you're at right now on your journey, just keep moving because it will continue to get better. So I just want to ask you for the last question is how do you balance it all? Because you are in a relationship with somebody, you have your circle of friends, you're in school, you have kids. What am I missing? Oh, your job. Yeah, you work full time. So how do you balance it all with maintaining, you know, your relationship to keep that growing and then everything else?
I try to keep my cup filled. And so I have focused on being a better steward. That's the message that God has been teaching me, especially throughout 2020, everything that's going on. We were kind of all thrust into a position, unbeknownst to us, that we would have to manage how we're operating our life a little bit differently. And so I just make sure that I'm a good steward of my time. And that involves putting God first. Mm-hmm. I have to give God the first fruit of everything that I am. Because I know if not, I'm going to get depleted. I have an A-type personality. And so I'm always the person that has a million things to do, a million things to get done. And so those can eventually become distractions. But I find that if I invest my time in God, even if it's just for 1 hour, because that's what he required in the Bible, just for 1 hour, that day goes a lot smoother. I'm able to balance things. I'm able to put things in perspective. And God shows me that I don't have to do everything all in one day.
Yes.
So I prioritize God. God prioritizes everything else. And it allows me to see what's most important. And that's it.
Wow, that's so good, and that's such a good reminder because when we feel like we're juggling all these balls, all doing it on our own, and it's whenever we have to take a step back and say, like, that's why I'm doing it on my own. I have to give it to God. So you just reminded me that I need to be giving him that first fruit of, you know, and then he's going to take care of the rest because I have my prayer closet and, you know, I think I get in there maybe 3 days out of the week, and I get my silent prayer, and those days go so well, no matter how many balls I'm juggling. But just because I'm tired, the other, 4 days out of the week, I forget to give him the first hour of my day, and my day sucks. So I'm really working on getting in the habit of giving him the first of my day and letting him take care of everything, because he really does. So that was some good words of encouragement. You killed all these questions. They were amazing. Did you have anything else that you want to leave our listeners with?
And I just have to add, I wanted to add an important note, because she did mention, yes, I am in a new relationship. But this relationship is going a lot differently than before because we're both intentional on being equally yoked. God showed me from before, you know, what he requires. And God showed me from before what Boaz is supposed to look like. And so I'm not going to accept just anything. So you have to be he's a person of prayer. We meet weekly. We've put that into our schedule where we're worshiping, we're praying together, because that has to be at the forefront. He has to be led by God. I said, I'll follow you as long as you're following Christ, and it can't go any other way other than that. So
yes.
Just make sure that whoever you align yourself with is truthfully and honestly aligned with God. And I think everything else will fall into place. Just be strong in the Lord and everything will fall into place.
Absolutely. I love that you said that, because last night we had a girl on here. She's a Christian vegan lady out in Atlanta, Georgia, and she's 31 years old, and she's looking for that partner, but she is not cutting her standards short if they don't meet that criteria. And she's like, you know what a lot of guys in this world are looking for, and I ain't giving it to them. Plus I'm vegan. Plus, I'm Christian and I have all these requirements. And she's like, that narrows down my list a lot.
You have to be a fruit inspector, you know, and that's where I failed on the first go round. I didn't inspect the fruit well enough. So God requires us to inspect the fruit, you know, fasting and praying, you know. So if there is somebody that comes into your life and you're not sure, ask God to show you. Just fast and pray. It's okay to put that person on pause and be like, you know what, I'm not sure yet. That's not a no, but that's just, let me wait and see what God has.
And I've watched Lynn and her partner do that, and just to see the beautiful couple that they are now, it's amazing, because I remember like just meeting up with her, and I'm like, all right, like what's the details? Where are y'all at now in your relationship? Is it official? No, we're taking it slow, like week after week after week after week, and I'm like, this ain't going nowhere. But then she came over tonight and gave me all the details, and it's just, it shows like the value in waiting and taking things slow, and then letting God do the work, because whenever we try to force it and do it ourselves, it sucks. Like, let God do it and make something beautiful. I hope this answers a question for another viewer that we have in the Facebook group. Her name is Melissa. She lives in Turkey, and she said that she met a guy in church. He wanted to get married, so she cut things off. But, like, girlfriend, you met the guy in church, so I don't think you should have cut him off just yet. But maybe you can do exactly what Lynn is saying, like have him pray with you. Make sure y'all prioritize one another. Take it slow and then see where things go. Yes. And God will show you if he is for you or if he is not.
Absolutely.
Well, if y'all have any questions for us, make sure you join us in the Facebook group. I Killed My Own Killer book series and podcast. And enjoy this podcast. It's available on Apple iTunes and as well as YouTube. But I had a blast talking with you, Lynn, and I'm so happy y'all got so much from it. But continue to follow us and support us and let us know what you guys think. Keep killing your killers, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.